October 21st, 2004, about 10 and a half years ago. Do you remember where you were or what you were doing? Though it was only 1 month after my 8th birthday and 2 months into the 3rd grade, I remember exactly where I was, and I certainly remember what I was doing. At first, it seemed like a typical Thursday. I woke up, brushed my teeth, put on my uniform, and off to school I went. But that seemingly normal Thursday would turn out to be anything but ordinary. After what now seems like months of obvious signs, my mom, a nurse, decided to give me a ketoacidosis test when I got home from school that day. Immediately, the strip turned dark green. And for my mom's reaction, I knew that wasn't good. 2 hours later, I found myself in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. As a naive 8-year-old, I had no idea what those words meant. But from my parents' reaction and outburst of tears, I knew that my life would never be the same. The doctors explained to me that I have type 1 diabetes because my pancreas doesn't produce insulin. My first question? Why? Basically, I was born with a defect gene that was activated earlier in my life by a virus. I spent the next 3 days in the hospital learning how to deliver insulin injections, check my blood sugars, and count carbohydrates. My wonderful, wonderful medical team assured me that if I could do those 3 things, I could live a pretty normal life. And they were right. Medically speaking, I can take care of myself, no problem. However, the biggest struggle of living with type 1 diabetes isn't a result of bruises from painful injections. It's not the unquenchable thirst I faced with high blood sugars, and it's not the desperate crave for sugar that I get with low blood sugars. Rather, the hardest part of living with type 1 diabetes are the misconceptions and inaccuracies attached to my disease. It's the question, so can you eat sugar? That I get asked each time I mention my disease. It's the TV commercials that claim that 2 pills a day can cure your diabetes. It's sitting in classrooms where teachers completely ignore the very important distinctions between the 2 types of diabetes. But come on, they're both called diabetes, so there can't be a huge difference between the 2, right? Actually, there's only one similarity between the 2. Both types result because the pancreas cannot produce enough insulin. Type 1 diabetics produce no insulin. Type 2 diabetics continue to produce insulin, just not enough for the amount of sugar consumed. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder. Type 2 is a lifestyle choice. For that reason, the best remedy for type 2 is diet and exercise. Type 2 diabetics have the power to choose whether or not they live with their disease. Meanwhile, I wear an insulin pump 24/7, check my blood sugars multiple times a day, and constantly worry about the complications that will result from this later in my life. I do all this just to manage my disease. So do you know what I would give to have the power to choose whether or not I had to live with mine? You have no idea. When I was first diagnosed with diabetes, I would tell anyone and everyone that I was living with type 1 diabetes. I was surviving a serious illness. I was a warrior. Today, I now know the outfits in my closet that best hide my pump and how to check my blood sugar in secret. So why the change from pride to embarrassment? It's the ignorance about my disease in society. Twitter feeds and TV shows joke that you get diabetes from eating too much candy. My BC professors have told me you get diabetes because you're too stressed. And society tells me that I'm lazy. All this ignorance completely ignores the 341 million people worldwide who courageously combat type 1 diabetes each day. My greatest hope is that one day I won't have to stand here and say that I am living with type 1 diabetes. I hope to see a cure in my lifetime. However, until that day comes, I hope society finally puts an end to all the misconceptions and instead recognizes type 1 diabetics for who we are. We are warriors. Thank you.